right, and welcome back. Welcome back to Rough Sketch of Final Draft. I am your host, Coach Adam, the Consciousness Coach, and we are jumping in for another amazing season kicking off, doing some serious deep dives, talking about consciousness, talking about our awareness, getting our mindset right, and realigning with our identity in serious ways. We are welcomed by some amazing sponsors and some incredible support for the show moving forward. So, of course, we are visited by a few different products, so heads up on that. For those of you who have been with us for a very long time, I love you all, and thank you so much for it. As we jump right into today's topic, this is going to be you and I. No amazing guest today. You're the amazing guest. Right? Your consciousness, you and I, right now, getting a chance to do a deep dive into what we think and what we compartmentalize as our peace of mind, and how we legitimately actually articulate something as vast and as something as simple as we think as our consciousness. As we do actually literally think about the collective consciousness of all humanity in that regard, that we know that if we have a thought that others are thinking it and feeling it too, it's a collective. Though we also know that we are individuals at the same exact time, and that we actually hold internal truths that are ours and unique to us and only us. But then there are these concepts that are completely shared and widespread and accepted by so many. So how do you make sense of all this? Where do we get into this idea that consciousness isn't something that is 100% fundamental to all of us? And that we know for a fact that if our ability to unlock our consciousness and get our blocks out of the way of our consciousness, then we would be able to manifest, move forward, create without burden, and be able to literally bring into manifestation the things in our life that we know that we want to. So in topics like this, one of the things that I definitely want to think about is whenever I'm working with a client, and obviously what we do is, even when we do this as an internal process, right? So wherever you are, when you're finding this, when you're listening to this, we have emotions. Emotions are a part of our awareness. Emotions are a part of everything that we do. Human beings, for the most part, are driven by emotions. Emotional triggers are a huge driving factor in life. Lust, love of money, which is protection and safety when you actually think about it from an emotional standpoint, psychologically. For the idea and the nourishment that validation and social awareness comes into, these are, again, emotions of safety, are representations in an abstract concept of a Porsche, a house, and marriage. Emotionally, these represent safety, right? The car is an establishment of the status is so high. In that regard, it equates to such a high level of safety. That's how that works in the mind. Something in the fact of owning a large home, also in the exact same thing. Emotionally, the reason why we have this drive to actually achieve it from a psychological standpoint is that we actually want that type of safety, that heightened level of safety, the safety that comes with owning a castle. And immediately the mind starts to filtrate and fill in the blanks about the idea that you're going to have guards, servants, and so on and so forth. The larger the house is, the more protected it is. It's safe in that regard. Versus the opposite. So it's what drives us. So fears are fine. Never push away the idea that somehow that if you feel a fear, that's immediately a bad thing. That's the mind legitimately doing what it's built to do, which is to protect you. That's its job. Now, obviously, how to navigate that, how to make sense of your emotions. That's where the beauty of all of this comes into. And I will be honest about how emotional regulation comes into our lives as we talk about those who are at the high CEO levels and who are very successful, and those who fall into other categories where they are still working on being able to build their wealth inside of their health and their mindset and their lives. They have yet to be able to manage their emotional regulation. And those who are on the high end, high producing CEO level types in that regard, they have an incredible grasp and acuity, an absolute mastery of emotional management. Almost to the point when sometimes they can seem robotic, and at other times when you know them in person, they can absolutely be someone that you can share your deepest, incredible, most vulnerable moments with. They can do both, and they know when to turn it on and then what to do with it when they don't need it at that moment as a distraction, and they get rid of it. They have these incredible speakers out there in the world, Grant Cardone, Natasha Graziano, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, even to a Alex Hormozy. You've got any of these types of social entrepreneurials, mind changers, mindset, builders, coaches. They know what to do. They know how to manage what's going on inside of here in order to be able to be direct and to create this way and that way, and making sure that they arrive where they want to go, not just where their emotions are taking them, because emotions are fleeting. It's like whether or not the morning is going to be cooler, the afternoon is going to be hotter, and it goes back to cold in the evening. That's not how you can make your life, unless you know for a fact that the weather pattern is going to be that way. You have to be able to get done what is going to get done anyways. So in that mindset, what do? You pack something in the morning that's a jacket, you have some shorts for the afternoon when it's nice and hot, and you bring a coat for the evening when it gets colder. And that's what the successful mindset is. And remember, to be able to articulate something simply is to be able to understand that you have an absolute grasp over it. There is no reason at all times to make sure that you are speaking in some sort of highfalutin Shakespearean prose that legitimately maybe speaks to only 1%, 2% of an entire audience. People always want to know what you have to share. And before that they even resonate with your content, no matter what it is, it can be coming directly from Tony Robbins. The reason why he resonates with people so much, Chris Willix, another great example, another Alex Hormozy, these individuals, the reason why you resonate with them, think about it. When they, the audience, knows how much you care, that's when people listen. And people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And caring in an emotional conveyance comes from the ability of saying that you can't teach, advanced astrophysics to a 5-year-old in that sense. Coming from a 54-year-old NASA scientist who has traveled the universes and so on and so forth. But you can. If you know the material enough and you grasp the material of astrophysics and complicated, mathematics and geometry and so on and so forth, you could explain it in such a way, basketballs and baseballs and ping pong balls and maybe a small golf ball, to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old because you understand it enough that you can make it simplified in any context that is there. That's powerful. That's when you are resonating with your audience. You are complimenting them where they are. You're meeting them where they are, and you are raising them up. You are legitimately reaching out. You're grasping at their consciousness at that exact moment. And that matters. We talk about these types of things of empathy and EQ, IQ, your emotional intelligence. What that really is grasping at is that you are able to regulate your emotions and you know when to use them the right way. You know when to speak with authority. And at other moments, you know when to talk to someone in absolute sincerity, holding space with them and allowing them to share. And then you know when to turn it back on so that not both of you start becoming blubbering. And then you drive in there with something to make a change, make it stick, make it timeless. And this is what matters. Emotional regulation. So in today's brief conversations that we're going to be able to start with, stopping treating emotions as facts is going to be the main point of today. Instead, think about it as energy. Treat them as signals, right? You think about the Morse code, right? We think about the EKG on the heart monitor whenever we see that in some sort of detective movie or any type of TV show or something else like that where someone's on life support and we see the boop, brrr, boop kind of a thing. That's a signal. The EKG is legitimately all about the energetic output. That's what the EKG stands for. So when we think about our emotions, think about it like your EKG. It is a signal that's coming from your emotional nervous system, legitimately your symbiotic nervous system. We are vibrating. You have a pulse. You have a heartbeat. This is energy. It is legitimately wafting off of you. You are radiating. You are pulsating at all times. You are a BTU carrier battery in energy form, moving. It takes energy to do things. If you don't have enough energy in your coffee or energy drink in you, or you don't have enough sleep, which obviously is where you recharge, then obviously you are depleted and you act tired. So how is energy not exactly what you are and what it takes to run who you are? I know we know that, though sometimes it's in the back of our mind, and I'm asking you right now to bring it to the forefront. Bring that camera into view, right? As you start to explain and understand yourself to your actual consciousness, instead of allowing it always to be in the background. So much so that we forget even that your consciousness inside of you, your subconscious, is even digesting your food. It is beating your heart. As you are breathing, you are not thinking about taking air into your lungs and putting it into your lungs and then following the air once it goes into your lungs and filtrating it throughout your entire body and every single limb from your bicep to your legs to your toes to the tips of your hair. But your body is doing that for you, right? So again, some of these thoughts, they go to the background, pull them forward for the sake of this whole entire understanding. Because honestly, the things that get to us in our emotional world of I feel behind, right? We think to ourselves that we feel unworthy, right? These are unconscious thoughts, but they are very powerful. You feel uncertain about things in life. And therefore, because you thought it, it must be true. So let's go through those again, right? You feel behind. Got it. Check 1. You feel unworthy. Check number 2. And number 3, you feel uncertain. And so those all must be true because you felt it. Well, if it is true, right, then we're going into a truth claim. Then can it ever be undone? Is 2 plus 2 truly 4? And is it always 4, right? Well, yeah, of course it has to be because it's factual, it's mathematical, it's provable. And what is provable is obviously what can be demonstrated, right? And it can be repeated. Don't ever forget that in the fact of whenever we're talking about language and linguistics and so on and so forth about how things are defined or how things are assumed, people get into this idea about what is true, and everyone has their own version of truth. That is a piece of life. At the same time, obviously, math is something that we conduct. And when you are paying your rent, or you're paying your mortgage, or you're buying a car, or you're paying for your Uber, whatever it's going to be, I assure you, we're going to understand that math and numbers are something that we all take into consideration of understanding, like, yeah, that's real. It's not just, well, this is my truth, and I believe that my $1 in my truth is worth $1 million. Well, that's beautiful. The tax collector and the person who's legitimately the waiter or the waitress at the restaurant is going to have something else to say. So there's some understanding in that regard of life. And at the same time, then we have to make room for the fact that, yes, there are legitimately facts that are above what we just want to feel about particular truths in life. So there's truth, and then there's ultimate truths that are 100% agreed upon. Some are good, some are bad, right? The world is flat. The world is round. People argue about this still to this day. It's 2026. Welcome to the internet. And things continue to go on. And so in that sense, when you understand that you are literally believing and your energy is saying, as your signal is going out, that you feel behind, that you feel unworthy, and that you are uncertain, do you think that that's a very strong signal? Do you think that that signal, if you were going to be able to describe that to somebody, do you think that that is pulsing at if it's 1 to 10, is that a strong 9.5? Is that somewhere there to the 1.3? Maybe a negative number, right? 0.5, maybe -3. Sounds pretty bad. You feel behind, you feel unworthy, you feel uncertain. Therefore, right, mathematically, therefore, that must equal 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3, and that it must be true. And I'm here to let you know that if you think of your emotions as absolute facts, like 2 plus 2 equals 4, there's going to be a challenge. And that's what we create with belief structures. And we have an unhealthy amount of unhealthy beliefs in this world. And if you genuinely believe that you are unworthy, that you are behind in life, that you are not enough, and that you doubt yourself, you're going to have some real struggles at changing those beliefs. Though I want to let you know that the moment that you genuinely start to tap away and chip away like a miner, digging for gold, digging for diamonds, and getting that rock out of the way so that you can get to the gold, you can find those gems, you're going to find that you are not behind in life. Not the way that you think you are. And that these beliefs that you thought that you had were more thoughts and thinks than they were deep-rooted truths or beliefs. That the unworthy feelings that you thought that you really, really, really believed, that you are unworthy. A terrible thought for anyone genuinely to have, no matter what you've done. In every single great spiritual book, you are absolutely forgiven. Thieves, con men, warriors, murderers, criminals are forgiven. I assure you, life is working with you and for you. You are absolutely worthy. Every single one of us are. Every single one of us are. There's no way that it could be otherwise. You're not a mistake. You're here on purpose. And you have a purpose. And your purpose goes beyond just discovering that you have a purpose. even in finding that you are worthy. That's not your purpose. Your entire purpose of life is not literally just to come into life and to realize that you are worthy. That's step one. Well, it's a large step. It's a very, 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 very large step. But it's step one. That cannot just be your only purpose. A whole 100 years, you came into incarnation. You came from the universe of substance of nothing, and you came into form. And you all of a sudden were just tasked with the one burden of saying, I am worthy. Absolutely, you are. Step one. It's not going to take you 100 years to figure that out. Hey, listening to this, you wouldn't have found this otherwise. It was drawn towards you, and you were drawn towards it. It's how this universe works. But consciousness expands also. Remember this. Consciousness expands as you grow. That's what happens here. Your head doesn't actually physically get bigger, even though we say that, right? Your head's getting too big. It can't fit in the room. Your head doesn't actually physically get bigger. Consciousness within expands. And what's happening there is that literally the neuron structures inside your brain, the corpus callosum, the frontal lobe, the occipital cortex in the back, right? For the understanding there, the hippocampus in between, connecting all right and left hemispheres, you have neurons that are firing. So as consciousness is expanding, those neurons, when you actually learn something new, something about history, something about philosophy, something about math, something about some sort of new entrepreneurship of growing yourself, or something even as a new workout, literally you have neurons that are now growing. Legitimately, you're growing your brain. And neurons are connecting and making new routes and new pathways inside your consciousness to send that energy, that aura that you are, into being able to have access to those memories that you are creating with new knowledge as you are absorbing. So consciousness is always expanding. Your brain doesn't physically actually get bigger. Your head doesn't have to grow to a size of a melon. But the moment that you recognize that the emotion that we're taking as fact is temporary, and it's a temporary nervous system response. Like I said, it's like a weather pattern. I'm saying that it's going to be mild in the morning. It's going to be hot in the afternoon. Pack a jacket because it's going to be freezing cold in the afternoon. For all of you who are out there in Texas, Arizona, Nevada, that's a typical day. Very kind of mild in the morning, extremely hot in the afternoon. If anyone's ever been to Vegas, anyone been to Dallas, Texas, anyone's been Phoenix, Arizona, you all know this. The weather pattern is pretty intense in the desert. So it's mild in the morning. It is deathly hot in the afternoon. So is it in the Middle East as well? Sahara-esque type of climates, and incredibly cold in the evening. Sand doesn't hold heat very well. So sands and rocks are not in that sense a good barometric pressure weather gauge. But if you start understanding that your consciousness is where you are, the weather reader in that sense, and that your emotions are literally just the weather patterns that come and go. They're fleeting like the wind, like a cool afternoon breeze. Then you have to understand that the pattern is something that you can understand and recognize. And pattern recognition is something that I go into a lot with my clients. I'm working with CEOs. I'm working with business entrepreneurs. I'm working with lawyers and with doctors in that sense. And understanding patterns is one of the most powerful mechanisms from a personal standpoint, all the way up to a professional standpoint, of understanding how you get a chance to respond and react to life. You respond or react to yourself. You can respond or react to your business. You respond or react to the economy and what's happening there, and you make shifts and so on and so forth. That's powerful. Pattern recognition is one of the most potent, powerful moments that you can ever actually adopt a new skill. And it's something that I teach in my high-end ticket course and my masterclass that's coming soon. But I already have this as a coaching offer, and we can do one-on-ones as well. That's very, very beneficial for a lot of my clients. Is to literally get a chance to actually start recognizing the patterns. You see the patterns and you know now how to react instead of actually feeling like they have the power over you. And that's the biggest point about things. Consciousness is all about the fact of becoming prepared. If you have a prepared mindset, then you are going to be able to meet that storm and know exactly which way you have to move the sails, change the rigging, crank the wheel to be able to navigate through the thrashing waves that life will obviously and ultimately always thrust upon us at times when we least expect it as well. That's one of the most important things to always recognize, is that life doesn't always, when you wake up in the morning, ask you, Adam, are you ready? Coach Adam, are you good to go? I got something big for you today. It doesn't tell you that. It just all of a sudden happens and you're caught in it, and it's brace yourself, right? Life is just coming at you. So understand that a highly conscious individual As we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about shaping our identity and understanding that we are energy signals legitimately all the time, pulsating and going through the emotions that are coming up and surfacing within us. That a highly consciousness individual learns to observe emotional states without surrendering their entire identity to them. And what does that mean in simple terms when you explain it from the astrophysics to someone who is at the junior high school level? What does that mean? It means that just because you felt that state of mind, that you weren't, that you were unworthy, you were uncertain, and that you had doubt, none of those words define you. It was just that this morning you felt a little bit uncertain. That's it. It's not that you were a bad person all day, or that it has to shape your entire week, your entire month, your entire year, and definitely not your entire life, which we know individuals do go through. And let's be honest about this. We all have something like this that we're all working on. Every single one of us. I've certainly wrestled with enough of these in my own life. And that's why I now guide individuals through to know how to do it for themselves. There's no shame in that. The shame is in the idea that you somehow think that you have to hide this in life. Real heroes face it head on. And if you have the capacity, if you have the willpower, utilize that. And you show others the pathway through this life and their struggles as well. And that's inspiring. That changes people's lives. Because when was the last time that we had role models that are really jumping into the fire to make that conscious shift for individuals? A lot of individuals wearing the right badges, the right, let's say, typographies, the right clothing brands, the right cars, the right lifestyle, all these other kind of things. But are they real role models? Are they really jumping in, getting their hands down, rolling their sleeves up, diving in right next to you? Are they willing to sit next to you on the bench where you are, where you find yourself today, broken, uncertain, feeling unworthy? Are they going to sit next to you? These individuals that you idolize up there on the big screen, nothing against them. Just understand where they fit into your life. Because idolizing James Bond the way that he does his cufflinks, when he's having a martini, shaken, not stirred. When some other Hollywood celebrity punches a particular person, it's a great example is the Indiana Jones punch, that dramatic sound, the boom, that happens from just a fist, the thwack. Doesn't happen in real life. So if you're looking for these moments, that if you ever get into a fight with one of your friends, say for instance, or whatever, and it's a scuffle, and that sound doesn't come through, all of a sudden what? Are you a failure? Are you going to keep on having more fights until it sounds like it does in the movies? You're going to keep on getting invited to big events or putting yourself at the Ritz-Carlton, right? The Bel Air Hotel, just so that you have the chance to check your cufflinks the way that James Bond did. These are examples of where sometimes we really do get lost. We follow the Pied Pipers without listening inward. We have a generation now that knows more about literally how to market themselves to this world than they do about how to have internal conscious questions about their awareness. And that's something to be said. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a fact to literally think about. Right? It's like we're literally on a boat on the ocean and you're just seeing things from the shoreline. There's a person, there's a happy dog, there's a house, there's a couple more rocks, there's a societal situation where people know more about how to market themselves than they do about knowing themselves from within. Continue on. There's a Porsche, there's a mansion, right? There's $1 million Maserati. It's just something to recognize. Doesn't mean you have to react. And see, once you understand how to actually regulate your emotions in a healthy way, then you understand you don't have to react until you want to react. And the best way is you get a chance to choose how you react. Not just that you react because you think that you have to react that way. That's another powerful point as well, is that our identity legitimately gets attached to the way that we respond to our emotional states. Because we think that who I am is now going to be someone that responds. It was a cultural reference in that sense of Toretto from Fast and the Furious franchise. It's all about family, that type of thing. The way that you would imagine him responding to a confrontation immediately kind of speaks that if in the movie he doesn't respond well to someone maybe teasing him or taunting him or intimidating him, you'd be like, well, this is weak. That's not how Toretto would do that. So understand that that is 100% a movie character on the screen. And then bring the frame back to you when you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. Don't you do that too? Aren't you subjected to that exact same comparison and that analysis? That the way that you respond to your coworkers is because the way that you are, you're a somebody. You're known as the tough guy, the tough girl, the sympathetic person, the artistic person, the fun person who goes out on the weekends and goes to Coachella. You're the gym fitness person, so on and so forth, right? So even when someone asks, like the gym fitness person, a question, this is something that we see a lot, something that I see in my experience as well, being a gym person, I guess in that sense. Healthy is a great way to be in life, is the fact that if you get a question maybe about emotions or you get a question about cars, the fitness person may like, well, that's not really, it's not me, ask me anything about personal training or which creatine supplement, protein shake brand that I recommend, and I got you. You need a chest workout? I'm your person, guy or girl. Because they don't want to be known for the fact of being able to have conversations about maybe, I don't know, interior designing. Something that doesn't fit the mold of being the Toretto. This identity of it's all about family, tough guy, punch first, ask questions later. This type of identity that you're wrapped up in with all the way in which you're now emotionally responding. Because you're now attached by the foot with a chain to this identity of I have to respond in this way. Otherwise, if I don't, what? Say it. I'm not this person then, because that's your identity. And if you get married to an identity, then you are locked into a consciousness trap that you literally just think that you're 100% just being you, whatever that is. Don't forget though, if you can change at any moment and you're looking for change in your life, then you have to understand that this person that you think that you are is not concrete either. Because how are you going to change this person if it's concrete? Hermetically sealed for all time. There'd be no reason to ever even go to any type of growth seminars or read a book or listen to a podcast, do any type of self-improvement, go to the gym, lose weight, because who you are is already preset. It's done. No, you have to accept that this individual, the truth, come to terms with the truth. Higher truth in that sense, right? We have our truth and then we have a truth of 2 + 2 = 4 because someone's going to put a bill on that. Higher truth that you actually legitimately come to understand, right? You go from a second dimensional consciousness to a third, to a fourth, to a fifth. You start realizing that higher levels of consciousness are really going to be where you actually start putting your mind towards. Right? The mind is always growing, as I was saying, it's expanding, right? That you understand that who you think you are today is a culmination of years of experiences, of moments, of conversations, of examples, of role models, lack of role models, hard times, bad times, good times, ups and downs, that we're all literally small frames within a long line. Remember how the old film strips used to be when it's shot on film before it was all digital? They're all little snapshots, little captions, right? Like a photo reel of today, a 30-second montage of your life from 2025. Just now go back further. It's from 2026 all the way back to when you were 3 or 4 years old. And this is the collection of the moments that you've had. So the moments that you've had were the experiences also from the perception legitimately that you experienced those moments from. You're not just set to the idea that these moments happened and that's what anyone would have done if those moments would have taken place. Again, imagine a Toretto in that regard to a James Bond to a superhero, Captain America, and throw them all into the exact same confrontation. You can imagine immediately each one of them is going to handle it differently and the outcome is going to be different. So that it isn't even the moment confrontation that is the actual defining difference. It's the character behind who is showing up in that experience that's going to shape the way in which the outcome of that happens. Now, when that's happening in our emotional world, in our love life, with our spouse, with our children, with our colleagues and with those that we are leading, either through sports. If you've got a team, you're on a team, or you're a coach. If you're coaching Little League, you're coaching, Division I athletes as well, different styles and modalities for everybody. That you're going to realize that who shows up as that coach or the player who is being coached. I work with a lot of people who are high-end athletes as well. That's going to shape the way that the outcome is going to be. Not just that you were thrown into the fire, but who is actually going into that. And that's the point. You can choose who you are in that moment. Because this who I am, that I think that I am, this identity, is more about who I had to become in order to survive than it ever was about who I just am if I would have been left to my own life and chose my own path and selectively went down the roster and chose my own experiences the way that I wanted to, the way that I thought. Instead, you get thrown into fire of life, do we not? And we really find ourselves through that fire because we have to pay the rent. You have to survive the embarrassing moment that happened when you were a kid. You have to overcome that fear of anxiety, that fear of rejection. Have to. Life demands it of us that we continue moving forward. So if we have to continue moving forward, then we have to keep growing. And if there is the ability to continue to keep growing, then there has to be more than what we thought that we were incapable from the beginning, which means that our identity cannot be set in stone as some rigid, never moving, never shifting concept. Something as large as continents in this world. Plate tectonic shifts. The world didn't look like it did 1,000 years ago and won't 3,000 years from now. So as small and as large as we think that we are, that nothing could ever change this. If you look at from an aerial map looking down at 3,000 feet from a skydiving level when you're flying over, Las Vegas, people look like tiny specks if you can even see them. And certainly, so high up, buildings start to tiny it down until where you can't make even sense of what is beneath you. I assure you, when the perspective shifts happens here, that is when your reality begins to shift. So learning how to separate ourselves from this identity of our emotions and learning how to have healthy, healed relationships with regulating our emotions, we'll be able to start using our emotions and understanding that our emotions will no longer use us, and which is powerful. If you knew how to use your emotion, instead of it having the ability to use you, you could use the emotion of happiness to empower your day. You could use the emotion of high energy to change the outcome of a meeting. If you could use the emotion, I am enough, to make that your state of mind, your state of consciousness for the majority of your day, you could accomplish. Could you just imagine what you would be for you, what you would accomplish for you, how you show up for you, and how then, when your cup is full, how you can show up for others. Because once we've taken care of ourselves, we can pour back our life, our love, our energy, our time, our consciousness into others that we love, which then the ripple effect just keeps on spreading out further and further. In such a gift in this life, to be able to enrich the lives of others. As a homework assignment at the end of this episode, that I would at least even suggest as anyone beginning on this path of their own consciousness. And also, thank you. If you've enjoyed this content thus far and you haven't followed yet and this resonates with you and you want more of this, please like and subscribe and do all the things. It's a little bit of a moment for you, but it's a huge thing for us as we continue to grow. I want to change a lot of lives in this world. I'm honored to be able to have this opportunity to be here with you in that regard and grow. If you want a coach who literally is about your consciousness, the consciousness coach, about you becoming a better you with you, someone who's going to be invested in you, you found the right. Do that. The homework assignment that I send you home with is legitimately beginning to understand that if you feel lack, that you aren't enough, I want you to look into yourself in your own life, and you'll know who this is. I promise that the second that I say this, someone's name, the image of someone's face is going to pop up for you. You'll know who this is. That there's someone in your life that even though you're feeling low, that even though that you're feeling like you're not enough for you, somehow you doubt you. I want you to find someone in your life that you can pour yourself into. See? You know who that is. Whoever that is, whoever's face, whoever voice popped into your mind, you know who they are. One of the best ways to grow ourselves is to assist others. When we feel like we're not enough, you want to remember and be reminded about how important you are, go help someone else. And they'll remind you how amazing you are. You've gotten into a moment of a lull, right? In your own routine. You've gotten into your own pathways, and we eventually get into our own way. We hold ourselves back from being able to see our own value. One of the reasons why having other people around us is fantastic is because they remind us and they reflect back to us our value. They let you know and you are reminded how much you have to offer just by you being you. Don't put a price tag on that. That's not a value statement of economics. It's an emotional evaluation. That's an IQ analysis. That's not your broker. That's not your tax accountant in that regard, giving you an evaluation of the property of who you are. It's not a real estate appraisal of whether or not your presence or a particular portion of your body, your smile, your heart, your head, your mind has a particular value in an economic financial sense. You are absolutely invaluable. You are absolutely irreplaceable. Others will reflect that back to you when you show up authentically and genuinely and coming from a healed, healthy place, showing up saying, hey, even it could just be something simple. Let's go out for coffee. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a workout. Let's go for a talk. Can't do that. The world of technology is there, right? Set up a phone call. Skype mom, Skype dad. Call grandpa, call grandma. Someone else has a dog, go for a walk with them. Tell them you'll walk the dog. Send over treats. Find out what their favorite kitty cat or doggy treats are. If they got a fish, do the same thing. So many ways to be there for other people. Get involved. You got a local gym, you got a local church, you got a local coffee shop, you got a local hangout restaurant that people go to and frequent, comedy club, something like that. Find people. They're everywhere. Get involved. You'll see the value in you because you shift the consciousness the moment that you step into a room. You may not know it right now, and you might doubt yourself and think that the way in which your aura mixes and matches or doesn't, either way, you immediately change it. Same way that when you have a Rubik's Cube, right? You make one tiny shift, changes all the colors on the other side. One move, every move that you make changes one more side of the top, the bottom, 4 walls of the Rubik's Cube of the energy in the room. I assure you. And when you become conscious about that, and when you learn how to consciously create your energy and the impact that you want to make, that's when you start being able to shift people into a totally different mindset about you because you know who you are. Continuing with the visualization of the Rubik's Cube, most of us can usually figure out at least to get one side done, right? The white side, the orange side, the green, the blue. You get one, maybe not all of them. Most of us have kind of, played around with it to the fact that you can get maybe 2 sides. You spend days, maybe hours doing it. But imagine that. Think if you could at least solve enough of your consciousness. Just start small. Small steps in consciousness, small steps in personal growth. You don't need to solve the entire Rubik's Cube to prove anything to anybody. Just start with the idea of solving one side, maybe 2 sides. Start there. Solve all of it for red, all of it for green, maybe yellow or orange is your color, or blue. And start there. And start understanding that if you add at least even an understanding of yourself to a full red side, a full orange side of confidence, a full green side of I am worthy, a full visual of blue, how much that would change the effect of everyone that you come into contact from now on. Something just like that is what I do in the work that I do with one-on-one clients and what we'll continue to do here. So again, if this has resonated with you, if this has spoken to you in some kind of a way, Stay tuned for more. We invite amazing guests onto this show. There's going to be more content for you and I just to have these kind of conversations. Follow us on the socials for Coach Adam, the Consciousness Coach. I have a book out there, Relationships Take Two, kind of like a movie, Take Two. But at the same time, it's about the idea that relationships take two. And of course, as we've been talking about it today, you start to understand that relationships take two between two people, male, female, 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 human beings, soul to soul. But also at the same time, it takes two. The consciousness and the subconsciousness, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. Out there is in here, and here is out there. There's a lot going on there with consciousness and mindset. I have an upcoming book as well. Stay tuned for those. We've got a lot of amazing podcasts that we're also on that I'll be putting some content on here for. Shout out to our amazing guests that are coming up here soon. Thank you all for everyone that follows on the Patreon. We'll be growing that and making sure that that continues to keep on moving forward. Other than that, keep growing your consciousness in your mind. The collective consciousness is real. The more that we grow as ourselves, the more that others grow out there because they get a chance to interconnect with you and interrelate with you. So the more grown and developed that you become and you mix with other people, it rubs off. You pour your light into their cup, and all of a sudden, everyone's cups are starting to become pretty filled with light. And the more that you fill other people's cup with light, guarantee you're going to start to attract individuals who pour light into your cup. So on that note, keep shining, fam. Links down in the description for motivational hypnosis tracks that you just listened to. There's more that you can download from my socials. Links are all down in the descriptions. I love you all. Keep shining.